Online logo makers are a little bit scammy. There are hundreds of thousands of websites out there, and most of them claim to be free. But when you invest an hour or two in actually creating the perfect logo for you, and you just want to download it, you suddenly realize that the website is not so free after all. If you're lucky, you get a tiny JPEG that can be barely used for anything, or you have to spend $60 on a logo you thought that would be free. But no worries, I've got you covered. Hi, I'm Philip, I'm a graphic designer and art director, and I found 5 websites that not only produce great looking logos, but they're also really free of charge. The first one is logo.com. And the great thing about logo.com, but also about all the other logo makers, is that they're really easy to use and quite accessible. So everybody can make a logo with it. You just type in your business name. You can add a slogan if you have one, but you don't need one. And then you select your industry. And we are going to do a fitness apparel. And after that, you get the options to select some colors. And the great thing about that section here is that you get little hints and descriptions of the characteristics of the color. So, for example, red stands for energy, passion, and love. Blue stands for strength, power, and technology. Or pink stands for love and playfulness. So in my case, I'm going to go with red, yellow, and grayscale as well. In the next step, you need to select some fonts. And they give you little descriptions as well. So for example, modern says that it's crisp with an urban flair. Vintage obviously adds a feeling of nostalgia. And quirky stands for playfulness. And I'm going to select modern, quirky, and bubbly. And it doesn't really matter too much which kinds of fonts you select here, because you can customize them later on. After that, you can select some keywords that describe your brand. So in my case, it's going to be blank, the name, then it's going to be fitness and apparel, and then they generate an endless amount of logo variations and presets for you. And they are all quite generic, which is fine because, it's a free logo maker in the end. But between these generic logos are always some hidden gems. I'm going to select this logo here because I do like the font they're actually using here. It already has this feeling of motion in it, which I do like for a fitness apparel. I'm not a big fan of the icon and the stripe, but I'm going to customize that in a second. If you have selected a logo that you like, you arrive at the customization section, where you can influence different things. For example, you can influence the layout and select new variations of how the logo should be arranged. You can select the colors of your logo. I like this one here, for example. In the container section, you can influence the layout as well by adding or removing a container. They give you pre-selected versions here as well that you can just choose from. In the business name section, you can influence your business name if you want to change it, or you want to add something, for example, or remove something. You can change the font that the logo is actually using, and you can influence the font settings by, for example, making everything in capitals. If you by now have found out that you actually want to have a slogan, you can absolutely add one here in the slogan section and influence the font and the font settings. And in the icon section, you can play around with the icon and either change the color again, search for new icons, or, as in my case, remove the icon completely. And if you're happy with the logo, just click on Get Logo, and from here on you can download the different logo files. You can either select one logo that you like, or just click on the logo zip file and download everything together. One thing that is really special about logo.com is that they give you a brand port, which is basically a one-pager containing all the important informations like your logo formats or your colors or the fonts that you use. And this is so important because it helps you to be consistent throughout your design process. So when you adjust your website, for example, you can use the same colors and the same fonts, and the same goes with business cards. Speaking of business cards, logo.com is completely free of charge, and you can create as many logos as you would like and download the high resolution files. Because the way they actually earn money is by implementing your logo on different things like business cards, letterheads, social media designs, or even create one-page sites for you, which I think is a really cool feature because you might want to do these things anyway, and they give you the option without hiring a designer. The next logo maker is from Namecheap. And similar as logo.com, you just have to type in your brand's name. Then you can optionally select what type of business you're actually in, and then they deep dive into font. You need to select if you want to have a serious or a fresh style, if it should be thick or thin, playful or elegant, organic or geometric, or if it should be funky. Then you select the color and they give you little descriptions for the characteristics as well. For example, on the right side we have cheerful, vibrant and happy, or on the left we have friendly, loyal and peaceful. I want to go with the cheerful, vibrant and happy one. You can add a slogan if you have one. And then you can choose from icons, and they give you some pre-selected icons here, which in my experience don't fit at all. But it also gives you the option to search for relevant icons that might fit into your theme. And since I'm creating a gaming channel, I have the Pac-Man theme in mind, and I probably want to go with the ghost. And I think this one is quite nice. And after you have selected the icon, they give you the different layout options and color variations. I like this one here. From here on you have some customization options. I do like the color variation, I don't want to change that. I do like the pre-selected font and I do like the weight that it has, but I want to go in and have a quick look if there is a font which might be a little bit more towards gaming and technology, and I think this one is quite fitting. I don't want to add a slogan, but you can if you have one. The icon by itself, I could change it from here on, but there's no need because I do like the little ghost. And I could have a look if there is another layout variation that I prefer. A little bit different than logo.com. They don't give me a huge range of pre-done layouts. They just give me the option to either place the icon on top of the font, remove the icon at all, which I do like as well, or place the icon on the left hand side. And from here on you can easily download your logo. You just have to sign in and download the logo. Even though Namecheap doesn't give you as many variations and presets as logo.com gives you, it gives you the most important options that you need to create a logo. And having limited options can also be a good thing, especially if you're not a trained designer and you know that designing is not your strength because you cannot make huge mistakes. But if you want to have more design options and you don't like the really clean aesthetics of Namecheap, then Vistaprint has also a logo maker which might be right for you. Same as before, you just have to enter your business name, you're selecting the industry that you're in, you could add a tagline which is the slogan basically in the other converters, and then you select an icon which might fit along with your business. In my case it's pizza and Italian. Now you can select where you actually want to use the logo. We're going to select everything here. Then you can scroll through all of the variations that Vistaprint is actually providing to you. And some of the variations do make sense and some of them don't make sense. For example, this one here, so the chopsticks with the noodles, don't make sense with dirty sliced pizza. But other examples like this one here work quite nicely. I'm going to select this one here. Before I jump into the customization process, actually this pop-up appears where I can already choose if I want to have a different color variation or a different layout variation. I actually like the yellow here. Let's go from here and customize it. Let's have a look if we can change the layout a bit. Vistaprint gives a lot more options than Namecheap does. For example, you can have the icon on the left hand side, icon in the middle, icon right. You can have the art text, which I do like. That's why I chose the logo in the beginning. You could have text only, or you can have the circular arrangement. I could add little dividers, but I'm sticking with the text arc. In the text section, I can do things like force uppercase, for example, or I can change the font by itself, or I can add a secondary line to the logo as well. The color section lets me choose the colors, but I'm quite happy with the pre-done selection they did for me. In the sizing sections, you can do a little bit of adjustments as well. For example, you could change the size of the graphic, you can add some padding to the top to actually space it out a little bit more, you can change the size of the primary text and increase the letter spacing or decrease it. If you're happy with the logo that you have created, you can just click on finish, and after you've selected how satisfied you actually were with the experience, very satisfied, you can download your logo for free. The one thing I do like about Vistaprint a lot is that they don't just use these plain icons like Namecheap does, for example, but rather they have these nicely done and well illustrated icons. And because Vistaprint is actually a big printing company, you can put your logo directly on business cards, but also on mugs and t-shirts and basically everything you can imagine, which can be quite a nice addition. Next on the list is My Free Logo Maker. And you probably guessed it by now, the first thing you need to do is to enter your company name. Similar as before, you select the industry that you're in. Next you get a variation of different logos and you pick the ones that you find aesthetically pleasing and that you think might fit best for the logo that you have in mind. Then you can select the colors that you like And then you could add a slogan. And they give me a little warning that logos look better with shorter company names. And they're absolutely right, they do look better with shorter company names. They suggest that maybe I can reduce it a little bit or move some of the text to the slogan section. So let's try this out. Then you can choose which kinds of icons you would like to have. So I'm selecting photography, camera, photo, light, and then they give you various design suggestions. And you can scroll through all of them and select the logo that you actually like. And similar as in the previous logo makers, you arrive at the customization section. You could just now download the logo for free from this point onwards if you're happy with the logo already, but you can also jump into the color palette or into the layout to adjust it and customize it a little bit further. One thing I did like quite a lot was the tip they gave me regarding my business name length. To put the photography into the slogan part, actually split it up the logo and put the photography part just below the company name, which makes the whole logo a little bit more compact and easier to comprehend. But I want to give it a little bit more color, so let's jump into the color palette and see what they have pre-selected for me. What I like is that you can just scroll through all of these little previews and see how your color is actually affecting your logo. And I think I'm going to go with this one here. I do like the logo how it is so far, but if you would now like to go and change the symbol, for example, you could. They give you lots of different variations of different symbols. They let you add a container if you want to have a more squared logo, for example, but I like the original logo, especially with the recoloring. Now I just have to click on download free and download my logo. What I do like about my free logo maker is that they have a lot of presets, especially in their customization section, which makes it so easy to adjust the logo and customize it and make it more unique and outstanding. But if you're not a big fan of presets and you want to customize your logo even further, and you might even have a little bit of design experience, then Adobe Express is the right program for you to create a logo. Adobe Express is a little bit more than just a one-click logo generator. It lets you create a logo, but you can do much more in there, like creating a flyer, creating Instagram stories or Facebook posts. Let's stay with the logo for now. You start with a blank page. You can browse different templates and select them to go from there, which is always a good option in the beginning, but you could also just create a logo completely by your own. But let's stick with the templates for now. I want to create a coffee brand, so that's why I'm going to search for coffee now. And I'm going to browse the various templates to find a logo preset that I do like. I do like this one here. Adobe Express is a little bit different. On the left-hand side, I cannot now just customize the logo, but rather I could use new headlines and drag them in, for example. So if I want to customize the logo now and I want to change the typography, for example, I would just click on the typography. And from here, I could change the font, I could change the weight, I could change the typography to have an outline rather than a fill. I could increase the thickness of the outline and play around with the opacity a little bit more. I can add text effects, I can add shadows, I can change the shape if I want to, or even add some little animations to it. And this can be quite overwhelming, especially in the beginning. But the more you use the program, the more you get used to it. So let's stick with just customizing the logo a little bit. I want to change it to Blanks Coffee Company, and because the text is so long and gets a little bit too small, I actually want to change it to a circle. And you can see that these little dots are actually now hidden behind the typography. So on the right hand side, you can see that you have these 4 different layers, and we have the little dots at the bottom and the icon of the coffee at the top. I want to change that by just dragging the circles above the typography. And what that does is actually change the layers. So now the circles are not hidden anymore behind the typography, but rather they are in the foreground, and therefore I can see them prominently. And I want to use these little circles as separators between Blanks Coffee and the company. Let's rearrange the icon a little bit so that it goes a little bit more towards the top. Select all and just place it in the middle. What I now want to do is to change the font, because by changing it and actually creating a circle, somehow the legibility just isn't that good anymore. So I want to change it to something which is sans serif and is a little bit more easy to read. Let's have a look at the recommendations, and that already seems to be a lot better. I don't like the color of the circles, so I'm going to select both and then actually using black as well. And that's how easy you can create a unique logo from a template in Adobe Express. If you now want to download that logo, you can by just pressing the download button and then selecting the file format you need. They give you a quick hint on which file format is actually best for which case. So for example, PNG is best for images, a JPEG is best for small sizes, and a PDF is best for documents. If you have animated your logo, you can download an MP4 as well. The only thing which is a little bit unfortunate is that Adobe Express doesn't give us a vector file. But the quality of the images is really high and you can use it for everything in the beginning. And if you for some reason need a vector file after all, I'm going to link my video down below where I explained the best way to convert a JPEG into a vector file. These were the best logo makers, which are really free of charge. Keep in mind though that because they're so easy to use, everybody can make a logo with them, which means that the logo you've created might not be as unique as it could be, which is perfectly fine in the beginning when you start out and you're just building your business. But later on you might think about what makes you unique and special and gives you this competitive advantage, and then incorporate that in your brand. If you've made it this far and you enjoyed the video and you thought the content was useful, please consider leaving a like or even subscribing. This really helps out a lot. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.